Hey guys, today I wanted to talk about what I think are the 7 most important and foundational habits to living a good life and self-improvement in general. Now, these 7 habits are extremely basic. They're not fancy at all. They're not anything like high intensity interval training, intermittent fasting, planning every day in Notion. That stuff is, a lot of people have talked about that stuff and it's good to implement. But unless you're doing these 7 things, you're sort of wasting your time with the more advanced stuff, because these habits that I'm going to talk about are the habits that are basically the lowest hanging fruit. They're going to give you the most positive change, the most improvement in your life for the least amount of time and effort. Yes, these things are very basic. You've probably heard of them before, but regardless of where you are in your self-improvement journey, there's a good chance that you're probably not implementing these consistently or properly. I know that even as someone who has been in the self-improvement space for quite a while, I don't always hit these. They're more aspirational, but they're definitely something that I know is good to do. And this year, I'm really going to try and focus on these 7 things. So I wanted to share them with you as well. As I said before, they're pretty basic. They're not going to take you a large amount of time or effort. It can be a bit difficult to consistently hit them, but hopefully I'll be able to explain what they are and why they're important, and that can convince you to actually do them. So without further ado, I'm going to go through the 7 habits in order of most important to least important. The first habit, which is genuinely the most important, and I feel like even though everyone knows it, not everyone follows it, and that is to get a good amount of sleep every night. 8 hours is recommended, but the optimal can be between 7 and 9 depending on your biology. So we all know that sleep is important, but let's go over why just a little bit. Firstly, and most importantly, it will result in good, stable energy levels throughout the day. You'll be able to focus, you won't feel super tired, obviously, you won't have crashes near the end of the day. That is the most important benefit of sleep. It also helps with recovery from exercise, it helps with your mental well-being and your ability to focus, think creatively, all of that good stuff. It helps with digestion. Sleep is basically like a performance-enhancing drug for every aspect of your life. So if you are not getting good sleep, you're leaving so much on the table. And there's not really much point on focusing on other areas of your life if you have bad sleep. You're sort of wasting your time in stuff that's good, but not going to give you as good results as first improving your sleep. Now, there's lots of content on how to get good sleep on the internet. I've made a video on it as well. But the basic bullet points that you want to follow is, firstly, to have a consistent sleep schedule. This means going to sleep and waking up at around the same time every single day and night. The other thing that you want to do is have good sleeping conditions. So like a nice cool room, darkness, no noise, lights, anything like that. And also before you sleep, you want to avoid bright lights such as screens. You want to avoid eating too much and exercising pretty much an hour before sleep. Avoid all of those activities. And that should result in some pretty good sleep, which will drastically improve your life if you are not already consistently getting it. The next habit that you want to focus on is making sure that you're drinking a lot of water. Now, I know this is another really obvious one, but hydration is extremely important. The main reason I like to be hydrated is because it prevents me having headaches and allows me to think more clearly and actually focus more on my work. The other really important benefits are the fact that it helps with your digestion and your eating and processing food. Another small benefit is if you're trying to diet or avoid eating too much, water can also make you feel more full. So it's really important I'd recommend have at least 2 liters a day. You might see recommendations of having more, which is generally good up until a certain point, obviously. But I feel like 2 liters is a really good threshold to meet, and you'll get most of the major benefits of hydration if you're drinking at least 2 liters of water. So it's a goal that's not too intimidating and you might actually reach. Next, and I feel like this one is also really important, and that is to consume for less than 3 hours a day. What I mean by this is you want to avoid activities that are fully dopaminergic, overstimulating, and basically you just mindlessly consuming something, whether it's YouTube, TikTok, TV, video games, movies. All of that stuff is enjoyable and somewhat relaxing as long as it's in moderation. So you basically want to avoid spending too much of your time on these activities. And 3 hours is quite a generous amount. You can still keep up to date with your favorite TV shows and play games with your friends and whatever. But having that 3-hour limit, which by the way includes like scrolling on social media and all of that other stuff, forces you to be more intentional with your time. And just to be clear, this limit doesn't apply to all things that are fun and hobbies. You can still, paint, play music, read, do other things that are sort of creative and productive. But in terms of pure consumption, you want to try and limit yourself to 3 hours a day. How I came up with the number of 3 hours is because that's roughly 20% of your waking hours. So that's a good amount you still get to do all the activities that you want, but it prevents you from spending too much of your time on these really addictive activities, these activities that are definitely designed to take your attention and keep you hooked in. So you want to be more intentional with your time and try and keep a limit of 3 hours on pure consumption activities. The next habit that you want to follow is to get sunlight, especially at the start of your day. You want to get a good amount. This is something that Stanford professor Andrew Huberman talks about a lot. And when you wake up and you get sunlight as one of the first things in your day, it really helps your body feel awake. It activates the proper parts of your circadian rhythm, which basically helps regulate your sleep and energy levels. And it's extremely important for your health and well-being in terms of having proper testosterone levels and other benefits from vitamin D. And it also really improves your mood as well. There are big problems in countries and areas where they get low sunlight, where people are more susceptible to things like depression, which is obviously a more complicated issue, but having a lack of access to good sunlight and vitamin D is a major contributing factor in those countries. So if you live in an area with good sunlight, you definitely want to take advantage of that. And even if it's overcast, you still can get the right type of sunlight coming through, even if it doesn't feel like a sunny day. So it's really important. One of the first things that you do after you wake up is to get out in the sunlight. What I've been doing during summer in Sydney is I will wake up, wash my face, and brush my teeth literally outside in my backyard, enjoying the sunlight. That's like I'm in the sun within the first 5 minutes of my day, which is something that you really want to focus on because it will just set you up to have a really successful day. You'll be able to wake up earlier without things like coffee and caffeine, which is more healthy and more attuned to how our body is naturally meant to function. Another really good habit that you can pick up is to have one daily highlight task every single day. So what this daily highlight task is one thing that you want to focus on that will move your life forward. That is the one most important thing that you have to do that day. Now, obviously you can do other things, but the way this one task is meant to work is if you complete the day and you've done it, then you can feel satisfied with how the day went. And if you do this, if you focus on one important thing that will move your life forward, decide it each day and complete it, you will start to, obviously it's good to do the task, but even above that, you'll start to prove to yourself and have the self-identity of someone who can set themselves a goal, plan out something that they need to do, and get it done. And when you build up this self-identity with yourself, it will make you more motivated and believe in yourself more and more and your ability to do the things that you need to do and get them done. So yeah, having a daily highlight is a really important habit because it's achievable, it's not too intimidating, and it allows you to really get the momentum of productivity and good living going. Another really important habit is to spend at least 5 minutes a day mindfully. Now, this doesn't mean that you necessarily have to meditate because that can be a bit intimidating, but on a really basic level, spending time mindfully means you're not consuming anything, you're not watching YouTube, TV, whatever, and you're not working either. You're not trying to be productive. You're just spending this time to be with your thoughts, be present. You can do honestly whatever you want as long as you're not consuming or working. You can let your mind wander and think about whatever you want. You can try and focus on your breathing and think about nothing. You can do meditation. You can do anything. You can even just go outside and look at trees. As long as you are not doing something that is overstimulating your mind, you're allowing yourself to process your thoughts and not have them running around all over the place. And it makes it a lot easier to be peaceful throughout the day, focused, energized, and it's a habit that I'd really recommend. The last habit that I want to talk about is spending some time actually writing about the things that you think. And this is one that I think is really important because if you let your thoughts sit in your head, it's really easy for them to become circular, which results in you getting stressed and anxious, and it results in a lot of overthinking. And your mind is not necessarily optimized to allow you to resolve this chain of thoughts because it's really easy for the thoughts to loop in your head. So what you want to do instead is actually journal and write out these thoughts. And when you do this, it makes it much easier to unfurl this chain of thoughts because just the way writing stuff out works is obviously if you've written thing A and then thing B, it's harder for you to want to think about thing A again because you've already written it out. Instead, you can think from thing B to thing C, and then you can logically think out and resolve this chain of thoughts that might be hard to do if you're purely doing it in your mind. Actually having the therapeutic way of writing things out and seeing your thoughts on the paper can allow you to process them in a different way that will allow you to stop overthinking and actually resolve it and be more peaceful and mindful and present throughout the day. So that's another really important habit. Basically making a habit of journaling. Journaling might not even be the right word. It doesn't need to be anything so official. Literally just like writing things out on a piece of paper and actually thinking about the things that are clouding your mind and resolving them so that you can focus on what's more important. So that's it. Those are the 7 habits that I think are extremely important to living a good life. These are the basic level habits, but even though they're basic and you've probably heard them 1,000 times before, it is really important to understand why they will improve your life. And it's even more important to actually do them. Because it's very fun to focus on these super advanced, fancy things that you can optimize in your life in terms of like diet and biohacking and productivity tips and things like that. But if you're not focusing on the absolute basics, you're not setting yourself up for having a really good day and a good life in general. You're trying to focus on the chasing the shiny object syndrome and not actually thinking about the things that will have the most significant impact. You're leaving a lot on the table. So I hope that you found this video valuable. Make sure to leave a like if you enjoyed it. I hope that you actually implement these habits in your life. I'm also going to try and implement them every day. Make sure to subscribe for more videos like this from the channel. I've made a commitment. I'm going to release a new video every week this year as a commitment to you and also promise to me. May have to make sure to do it. So stick around to see more good content. And as always, thank you for watching. I'll see you on the next one and good luck living the perfect life.